The battle alarm screamed through the small scout ship. Red lights flashed as Captain Tae-ho Kim grabbed the command rail to steady himself. Another hit rocked the ship. "Damage report," he shouted. Tae-ho was 32 years old with short, black hair and eyes that missed nothing. His Earth Defense Fleet uniform was torn at the shoulder from the last attack. Main engines down to 20%. Weapons offline. "Hull breach on deck 3, said the ship's computer voice. Tae-ho looked at the screen. 3 Seathic warships surrounded them. The alien vessels were long and curved, like the snakes the Sithic resembled. Green energy beams cut through space. Toward his small ship. "Send emergency signal to Fleet Command. Tell them we found the Sithic battle group near Saturn's rings," said Tae-ho. "Signal blocked," replied the computer. Tae-ho hit the desk with his fist. This was supposed to be a simple scouting mission. Watch the enemy, stay hidden, report back. Now his ship was falling apart around him. The Sithic had been Earth's enemy for 5 years. The snake-like aliens wanted human planets for themselves. They had better weapons and ships, but humans fought hard. The war had reached a stalemate until now. "Captain, they're using a new weapon," said the computer. "Energy readings don't match anything in our files." The ship shook again. This time, the lights went out completely. Tae-ho felt the artificial gravity fail. He floated up from his chair. "Emergency power," he called. Nothing happened. The ship was dead. Through the front window, he saw a green light growing larger. The Sithic were pulling his ship toward their much larger vessel. Tae-ho pushed himself to the emergency locker. Inside was a small black box, the ship's memory core. It contained all the data about Earth's defenses, codes, and battle plans. He pulled it out and smashed it against the wall until it broke into pieces. Better destroyed than in enemy hands. He felt his ship bump against something. The Sithic had caught him. Tae-ho reached for his gun. He would not be taken without a fight. The wall in front of him suddenly melted. It didn't break or explode. It simply turned liquid and dripped down to the floor. Behind it stood 3 Sithic warriors. The aliens were 2 meters tall. Their bodies looked human-shaped from a distance, but their skin was covered in small, green-brown scales. Their heads were flat and wide with yellow eyes that never blinked. They had no hair, just more scales that got smaller around their face. They wore black armor that moved like it was alive. "Human captain," said the middle one in a voice that sounded like stones being rubbed together. "You will come with us." Tae-ho fired his gun. The energy blast hit the middle Sithic in the chest. The alien didn't even move. Its armor absorbed the shot without any damage. The Sithic on the left pointed a small device at Tae-ho. Pain exploded through his body. He tried to scream but couldn't. His muscles locked tight and he fell to the floor. "The human resistance is always amusing," said the middle Sithic. "Bring him." 2 Sithic grabbed Tae-ho's arms and dragged him from his ship. He couldn't move or speak, but he could see and hear everything. They pulled him through strange curving hallways that seemed to be made of both metal and living tissue. The walls pulsed gently as if breathing. They arrived at a large room with a raised platform in the center. A Sithic larger than the others sat on a chair made of what looked like bones. This one wore red armor with strange symbols carved into the scales of its face. "Commander Hisk," said one of Tae-ho's guards. "We captured the human scout ship. This is the captain." The Sithic, in red, Commander Hisk stood up and walked to Tae-ho. It leaned down until its face was centimeters from his. Its tongue, thin and forked like a snake's, flicked out and touched Tae-ho's cheek. "I taste fear," said Hisk. "Good. You should be afraid." Hisk nodded to someone behind Tae-ho. The pain stopped. Tae-ho gasped and fell to his knees, his muscles working again. "Where is your fleet hiding, human?" asked Hisk. Tae-ho looked up. "Captain Kim, Tae-ho, service number 557834A2. Hisk made a sound like rocks falling. It took Tae-ho a moment to realize the alien was laughing. "Your name means nothing to me. Your codes mean nothing. What matters is the information in your head." Hisk held up a small device that looked like a silver spider. "This will pull the thoughts from your mind. It will hurt. A lot." Tae-ho tried not to show fear. "Captain Kim, Tae-ho, service number 557834A2. Very well, said Hisk. The silver spider jumped from Hisk's hand onto Taiho's head. Its metal legs dug into his scalp. Pain like fire spread through his skull. He screamed and fell to the floor. Images flashed in his mind. His ship, Earth, the defense stations around Mars, the codes to call off the human alert fighters, fleet, positions, weapon stockpiles. No. Taiho focused on other memories. His childhood home in Korea, his grandmother's face, the taste of her kimchi soup, mountains, rivers, anything but military information. After what felt like hours, the spider jumped back to Hisk's hand. The commander looked angry. The human has strong mental shields, said a smaller Sithik at a control panel. We got nothing useful, Hisk hissed with anger. Its scales darkened with rage. I have broken stronger minds than yours, it told Taiho. But we have faster ways. The commander tapped its wrist device. Prepare for jump to Earth. Coordinates. We'll use this human's ship identification to get past their outer defenses. Taiho tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't work properly. You'll never get through. Earth is ready for you. We have new weapons your kind has never seen, said Hisk. Your planet will fall in days. Taiho knew he had to do something. If the Sithik jumped their ship to Earth with his scout ship's ID codes, they might get past the first line of defense before being discovered. Thousands would die. The human defense system changes codes every 6 hours, Taiho lied. My codes expired while you were capturing me. If you use them now, the automated defenses will target you immediately. Hisk stared at him with those unblinking yellow eyes. Is this true? It asked the Sithik at the control panel. The smaller alien checked its screens. Human communication patterns do show regular changes. We cannot confirm this specific claim. Hisk turned back to Taiho. If you lie, you die slowly. Check it yourself, said Taiho. Send a small probe with my ID signal. See what happens. His heart beat fast. There was no regular code change. He just needed to delay them and hope Earth spotted the Sithik ships. After a long moment, Hisk nodded. Send a probe. If the human lies, prepare the pain chambers. The smaller Sithik obeyed. Taiho tried not to show his relief. They wouldn't. Jump straight to Earth now. While we wait, said Hisk. Let us see how strong you really are, human captain. Take him to the pit. Let our pets have their meal. Taiho felt cold fear in his stomach. What's the pit? Hisk's mouth opened in what might have been a smile on a human face. On the Sithik, it was terrifying. The place where we keep our most dangerous hunters, animals from 100 worlds changed to serve us. They always enjoy fresh meat. The guards grabbed Taiho again and dragged him from the room. They took him down sloping hallways that grew darker and damper. The air became heavy with strange smells, musky and wild. They stopped at a large circular door. One guard hit a control and the door slid open. Beyond was darkness and sounds of slithering. The humans think they're so special, said the guard. Let's see how special you are against our serpents. None of your kind has lasted more than an hour. They threw Taiho through the doorway. He hit the ground hard and rolled. The door closed behind him with a final sounding thud. In the dim light, the floor seemed to move. As his eyes adjusted, Taiho saw why. The entire floor was covered with snakes. But not normal snakes. These were enormous, some as thick as his leg and longer than 3 men. They had strange metal devices attached to their heads, glinting in the low light. The snakes turned toward him, dozens of heads rising, forked tongues testing the air. Taiho Kim, captain of the Earth Defense Fleet, stood very still as the serpents began to move toward him. The snakes moved closer to Taiho. In the dim blue light that came from spots in the ceiling, he could see them better now. They were huge. The biggest ones were nearly 5 meters long and thick as his waist. Their scales shimmered with dark, blues, greens, and purples. Each had a metal device attached to its head that blinked with tiny lights. Taiho's first thought was to run. But there was nowhere to go. The room was large and round with smooth walls. The door he came through had no handle on this side. He was trapped. The nearest snake raised its head. It had eyes that glowed faintly yellow in the darkness. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the air, tasting him. Most people would panic, but Tai-Ho had been trained not to. He took a deep breath and made himself think clearly. Slow movements, he whispered to himself. No sudden actions. He remembered something his grandmother had taught him when he was young. Back in their small town in Korea, they sometimes found snakes in the garden. His grandmother never killed them. Snakes are not evil, she had said. They are just animals trying to live. If you show fear or threaten them, they will strike. If you stay calm and give them space, they will leave you alone. Of course, these were alien snakes changed by the Sithic, but maybe the same rules applied. Tai-Ho slowly lowered himself to a sitting position. He kept his breathing even and deep. His heart was racing, but he worked to slow it down. He had learned meditation techniques during his military training. They helped soldiers stay calm under pressure. The snakes seemed confused. They moved around him in circles, their bodies sliding over each other with dry, rasping sounds. But none attacked. They were used to prey that ran or fought. Tai-Ho did neither. Hours passed. The snakes kept watching him. Sometimes one would come closer, tongue flicking, then move away again. Tai-Ho stayed still. His legs were getting stiff, but he didn't move. His mouth was dry, but he didn't reach for the small water pouch on his belt. He began to notice things about the snakes. They weren't all the same. Some had different patterns on their scales, some were larger than others, and they seemed to follow one snake in particular, a massive one with dark purple scales and 3 metal devices on its head instead of just one. This big snake stayed back, watching Tai-Ho from a distance. It seemed smarter than the others, somehow, more careful. As the night went on, Tai-Ho's eyes grew heavy. He needed to sleep, but was afraid to. What if they attacked while he slept? But he couldn't stay awake forever. He decided to lie down very slowly. The snakes watched, but didn't come closer. He put his head on his arm and closed his eyes, keeping his other senses alert for any movement. Tai-Ho woke to something touching his hand. He opened his eyes carefully, not moving. A smaller snake was sliding over his fingers, tongue flicking against his skin. It wasn't attacking, just exploring. The light in the room had changed. It was brighter now. Morning, maybe, though in space on an alien ship, that didn't mean much. Tai-Ho slowly sat up. The snakes moved back, giving him space. He was very thirsty now. Carefully, he reached for his water pouch. The snakes watched but didn't react. He drank, feeling better as the water soothed his dry throat. Then he noticed something odd. There was a small pile of what looked like fruit near his feet. Had it been there before? He didn't think so. It was round and purple with a thin skin. He wondered if it was food or poison. As he looked at it, one of the smaller snakes pushed it closer to him with its nose. "Are you feeding me?" Tai-Ho asked quietly. The snake just looked at him with those glowing eyes. Tai-Ho was hungry, but he wasn't sure if the fruit was safe for humans. He decided to wait. The big purple snake, the leader, moved closer. It was massive up close. Its head was the size of Tai-Ho's chest. The metal devices on its head blinked with different colored lights. Tai-Ho now saw they were implanted into the snake's skull, some kind of technology the Sithic had put there. The big snake circled Tai-Ho once, then settled its huge body in a coil near him. It wasn't threatening, just close. Watching. Tai-Ho looked at the devices on the snake's head. They reminded him of neural interfaces, technology humans used to connect minds to computers. But these were different, more complex. "What did they do to you?" he asked the snake, not expecting an answer. The snake's tongue flicked out, almost touching Tai-Ho's face. Then something strange happened. The lights on the devices flashed in a pattern. Blue, red, blue, green. Then again. The same pattern. Not random, Tai-Ho realized. A pattern meant communication. He remembered his training on alien encounters. Different species communicate in different ways, his instructor had said. Look for patterns, repetition, symmetry. Teho looked at the flashing lights again. Blue, red, blue, green. He slowly raised his hand and pointed to each color as it flashed. Blue, red, blue, green. The snake's head tilted slightly. The pattern changed. Blue, red, red, green. Teho repeated the new pattern with his finger. Blue, red, red, green. The snake moved its head up and down once, almost like a nod. You understand me? Teho whispered. Or at least you're trying to. Over. The next few hours, Teho worked with the pattern of lights. He discovered that if he touched different parts of the metal device gently, different lights would flash. It was like a simple keyboard. The other snakes had gathered around watching. They seemed curious about what was happening. Teho's fingers found a pattern that made the snake's eyes widen. Blue, blue, red, green, green. When he touched that sequence, the snake moved back slightly and made a soft hissing sound. Did I say something wrong? Teho asked. The snake repeated the same pattern with its lights. Teho tried a different pattern. Green, red, blue. This time the snake moved closer. By the end of the day, Teho had learned several patterns that seemed to mean things. Green, red, blue might mean come closer. Blue, blue, red, green, green might mean danger or stop. He was so focused on learning to communicate that he forgot where he was, a prisoner on an enemy ship, thrown into a pit to die. Instead, he felt like an explorer, discovering something new. When he got hungry, he decided to try the fruit. He sniffed it first. It smelled sweet. He licked it carefully. It tasted good, like a mix of peach and orange. He took a small bite and waited to see if it made him sick. When nothing bad happened, he ate the rest. More snakes brought more fruit. They pushed it toward him with their noses or carried it in their mouths without breaking the skin. Teho thanked them each time, and they seemed to understand his tone, if not his words. As the day went on, Teho felt tired again. He needed to sleep. The big purple snake, which he had started thinking of as the leader, moved its coils into a circle around him, not trapping him, but protecting him. Teho hesitated, then slowly lay down inside the circle of coils. The huge snake's body was warm, surprisingly so. It made sense. Reptiles needed heat. The snake's scales felt smooth and dry against his arm. Teho's last thought before falling asleep was that the Sithik had made a mistake. They thought they were throwing him to monsters. But these weren't monsters. They were intelligent beings trapped like he was. He dreamed of his grandmother's garden, of the small harmless snakes that lived there, and of her gentle hands showing him how not to fear them. When the Sithik guards came the next morning, they found something they had never seen before. The human prisoner was alive. More than alive. He was sleeping peacefully, his head resting on the coiled body of the largest serpent. The other snakes were positioned around them in a protective circle, their heads facing outward like guards. The Sithik stared in shock. This had never happened before. Every other prisoner thrown into the pit had been eaten within hours. But this human had somehow tamed their deadliest weapons. One guard raised his weapon, ready to shoot the human while he slept. But the big purple snake saw him. The lights on its neural implants flashed a warning pattern. All the snakes turned toward the guards and raised their heads, hissing. The guards backed away, closing the door quickly. Commander Hisk must see this, one said to the other. The human has done the impossible. As the door closed, Teho opened his eyes. He had not been asleep. He had heard the guards come in. He had seen the snakes protect him. He placed his hand gently on the big snake's scales. "Thank you," he said softly. "I think we can help each other." The snake's neural implant flashed a pattern of lights that Teho was beginning to understand might mean agreement. The news spread quickly through the Sithik ship. The human prisoner was still alive. Not only alive, but somehow controlling the deadly serpents of the pit. Commander Hisk demanded to see this for himself. A small group gathered at the viewing window above the pit. Commander Hisk stood in front, his scales darkening with anger as he watched the human below. This is impossible, he hissed. The serpents have killed every prisoner we have ever put in there. Yet this human lives, said a smaller Sithik beside him. This was Lieutenant Sujin Park, a human who had been taken as a child and raised among the Sithik. She served as a translator and cultural expert, but secretly hated her Sithik masters. Perhaps humans have some ability we do not understand. Down in the pit, Teho was unaware of the audience above. He had been working with the lead serpent for hours, learning more light patterns from its neural implant. He now thought of the big purple serpent as Sunja, a Korean name meaning docile, though there was nothing docile about the massive creature except when it was with him. Teho had discovered something amazing. By touching certain spots on the neural implants in specific orders, he could make the lights flash in complex patterns. And the serpents responded to these patterns with what seemed like understanding. "You're more than just animals, aren't you?" Teho said to Sunja as he gently touched a sequence on the implant. Blue, green, red, yellow. Sunja's eyes blinked slowly, and the serpent moved its head in what Teho now recognized as a nod. The other serpents had gathered around them, watching. Teho noticed they all had similar implants, though simpler than Sunja's. "The Sithik did something to you," Teho said. "These devices control you somehow." He examined the implants more closely. They were embedded into the serpents' skulls, with tiny wires that disappeared under the scales. They looked painful, but the serpents didn't seem bothered by them. Perhaps they had grown used to the pain. Teho tried a new pattern. Red, blue, yellow, green. When he touched this sequence, Sunja's body tensed and a low hiss escaped its mouth. The other serpents backed away slightly. "I'm sorry," Teho said quickly. "I didn't mean to hurt you." He tried another pattern. Green, yellow, blue. This time Sunja relaxed again. Teho made a mental note. Red sequences seemed to cause pain or fear, while green ones seemed to calm. Above them, Commander Hisk was growing impatient. "This proves nothing," he said. "The serpents are simply curious about a new type of prey. They will kill him eventually." "I don't think so," said Sujin. "Look how they respond to his touch. I have never seen the serpents behave this way." "Then we will make them behave as they should," said Hisk. He turned to a guard. "Activate the pain circuits in the implants, all of them, level 3. The guard moved to a control panel and pressed a series of buttons. In the pit, Teho watched, in horror as all the serpents suddenly writhed in pain. Their bodies twisted and high-pitched sounds came from their throats. The lights on their implants all flashed red. "What's happening?" Teho shouted, though he knew no one could hear him. He tried to help Sunja, whose massive body was thrashing against the floor. Then Teho noticed something. When he put his hand on Sunja's implant, the red flashing slowed. The pain seemed to lessen. Teho quickly pressed the green sequence he had discovered earlier. Green, yellow, blue. To his surprise, the lights on Sunja's implant stopped flashing red and began to show his green pattern instead. The serpent's body relaxed slightly, though it still trembled. Teho looked at the other serpents, still, in pain. He couldn't reach all of them, but Sunja could. "Help them," Teho said, pointing to the other serpents. "Can you share the green pattern?" Sunja seemed to understand. The large serpent moved to the nearest suffering creature and pressed its head against the other's implant. Incredibly, the second serpent's lights also changed from red to green. Its pain seemed to ease. Together, Teho and Sunja moved from serpent to serpent, changing the light patterns, easing their pain. Within minutes, all the serpents in the pit had stopped thrashing and were calm again. Above, Commander Hisk slammed his fist on the control panel. "Impossible! He is overriding the control signals." "Not overriding," said Sujin, trying to hide her excitement. "Redirecting. He has discovered how the neural network functions." "This human is too dangerous," said Hisk. "He must be removed from the pit and executed immediately." "With respect, Commander," said Sujin carefully. "Perhaps we should study this ability. It could be useful." Hisk turned his unblinking yellow eyes to her. Explain. Sujin swallowed her fear. If one human can control the serpents this way, perhaps others can too. We could create a new weapon. Human handlers directing serpent attacks, more precise than our current methods. This was a lie. Sujin had no intention of helping the Sithik create new weapons, but she needed time to make contact with the human below. He might be the key to the resistance she had been secretly building. Hisk was silent for a long moment, considering. You may be right. We will observe for one more day. You will go into the pit and speak with this human. Learn how he controls the serpents. Into the pit? Sujin tried not to show her fear. The serpents will kill me. Not if this human truly controls them, said Hisk with a cruel smile. Consider it a test of your theory. If you die, the human dies too. Back in the pit, Taeho had gathered all the serpents around him. He was touching their implants one by one, learning different patterns, building a simple language. Blue for water, green for food, red for danger. The serpents learned quickly, responding to his patterns with patterns of their own. Sunja stayed, closest to Taeho. The massive serpent had become protective, curling around him when he rested, bringing him the strange fruits to eat. Taeho noticed that when he touched certain sequences, Sunja's eyes seemed more alert, more intelligent. It was as if the right patterns woke something up inside the creature's mind. The implants don't just control you, Taeho said as he worked. They suppress you, your intelligence, your true nature. The door to the pit suddenly opened. Taeho tensed, and all the serpents turned toward the entrance, bodies coiled and ready to strike. A slim figure in Sithik armor stepped through cautiously. Taeho was surprised. This wasn't a Sithik, it was a human woman. Don't be afraid, she said in Korean, shocking Taeho even more. My name is Sujin Park. I'm human like you. The serpents hissed and began to move toward her. Taeho quickly touched the green sequence on Sunja's implant, then pointed to Sujin. Friend, he said, not enemy. Sunja hesitated, then settled back. The other serpents followed its lead, retreating but still watching Sujin with wary eyes. Sujin took a careful step forward. You control them, she said. How? I don't control them, said Taeho. I communicate with them. They're intelligent beings. The Sithik use these implants to suppress their true nature. Sujin looked at the serpents with new understanding. I always wondered why the Sithik needed control devices for simple animals. They're not simple animals, said Taeho. What are you doing here? Why do you work with the Sithik? I was taken as a child, said Sujin. Raised among them, but I never forgot what I am. She lowered her voice to a whisper. I'm part of a resistance. There are others like me, humans, and other species working against the Sithik from within. Taeho couldn't believe what he was hearing. A resistance? Here on their ships? Sujin nodded. The Sithik have made many enemies, but we have little power. Until now. She looked at the serpents surrounding them. The Sithik rely on these creatures as weapons. If you can truly communicate with them, perhaps even free them from control. I'm working on it, said Taeho, but I need to know more about the implants, how they work, what they're suppressing. I can help with that, said Sujin. I have access to the technical data, but we must be careful. Hisk is watching us right now. She pointed up to the viewing window where dark shapes could be seen. Why are you telling me this? Asked Taeho. You're taking a huge risk. Because I've waited years for a chance like this, said Sujin. And because the Sithik are planning something terrible. An attack on Earth bigger than anything before. They have a new weapon that could destroy all human worlds. Taeho looked at Sunja and the other serpents, then back at Sujin. Then we don't have much time. No, said Sujin. We don't. But now we have something the Sithik don't expect. She glanced at the serpents. We have their own weapons ready to turn against them. Above them, Commander Hisk watched with growing suspicion. He couldn't hear what the humans were saying, but he didn't like how comfortable they seemed with each other. Watch them closely, he told the guard. If they try anything, kill them both. and increase the serpent control levels. I want those creatures ready to attack on my command. The guard adjusted the controls, but nothing happened. The implants were no longer responding to the Sithik system. Down in the pit, a revolution was beginning. Over the next 3 days, Sujin visited the pit regularly. She told the Sithik she was studying how Taiho controlled the serpents. But really, she was helping him understand them better. The serpents were not always like this, Sujin explained, showing Taiho a small screen she had smuggled in. On it were images of tall, elegant beings with snake-like lower bodies but humanoid torsos and heads. They were called the Nagaraj. They had their own civilization, their own planets. They were peaceful explorers and traders. What happened to them? Taiho asked, looking at Sunja with new eyes. The Sithik happened. They attacked the Nagaraj, worlds 50 years ago. Instead of just killing them, they did something worse. They changed them using their biotechnology. They turned them into these serpent forms and put the neural implants in their brains to control them. Taiho felt sick. They took away their intelligence, their civilization? Yes. The Sithik believe all other species are meant to serve them. Some they kill, others they change to be useful. Sujin's voice was bitter. They tried it with some humans too, but it didn't work well. Our brains are different. Sunja watched them talk, its yellow eyes fixed on the screen showing the Nagaraj. Did it recognize its own kind? Taiho wondered. These implants, Taiho said, touching Sunja's metal devices gently. They don't just control, they suppress. But if we could reverse that... I thought the same thing, said Sujin. I've been studying the technical data on the implants. Look, she showed him diagrams on her screen. Complex circuits and codes that made Taiho's head hurt. There's a primary control sequence here. She pointed to a section of code. If we could replace it with a new one, we might be able to free the serpents' minds, at least partly. Taiho looked at the code, trying to understand. How do we do that? The implants are designed to accept override codes in case the Sithik need to update them. We can use that system against them, but we need to create the right code sequence. They worked together for hours, Sujin explaining the technical details, Taiho trying different light patterns on Sunja's implant to see what worked. Finally, they found a sequence that seemed promising. Red, blue, green, yellow, yellow, blue, red. When Taiho pressed this pattern on Sunja's main implant, something amazing happened. The serpent's eyes widened and its body went completely still. Then it began to tremble slightly. Is it in pain? Taiho asked worriedly. I don't think so, Sujin said. Look at its eyes. Sunja's yellow eyes had changed. They looked sharper, more focused, more aware. Slowly, deliberately, Sunja moved its head to the screen Sujin was holding. It looked at the image of the Nagaraj for a long time. Then it turned back to Taiho and did something it had never done before. It touched Taiho's face with the tip of its snout, very gently, almost like a human would touch someone with their hand. It remembers, Sujin whispered. Some part of it remembers what it once was. Taiho felt tears in his eyes. We have to help the others too. Over the next hours, they applied the new code sequence to every serpent in the pit. Each one had the same reaction, stillness, then a new awareness in their eyes. We can't fully restore them, Sujin explained. The physical changes are too deep. But we've given them back some of their minds. The serpents gathered around Taiho and Sujin, no longer just following Sunja's lead, but seeming to make their own choices. They communicated with each other using the light patterns on their implants, having complex conversations that Taiho could only partly understand. Now we need a plan, said Taiho. The Sithik will figure out what we've done eventually. They already suspect something, Sujin said. Commander Hisk has ordered me to bring you to him tomorrow for questioning. He thinks I've been studying your techniques, but he's growing impatient. Then we need to move quickly. You said there are other resistance members on the ship? Sujin nodded. 12 humans and about 20 Zor. The Zor look a bit like blue monkeys. They were conquered by the Sithik years ago. Can they help us? Maybe. Most work in the engine rooms. If we could get there, They might be able to disable the ship's systems, but we'd never make it past the guards. Taeho looked at the serpents, now moving with more purpose and coordination than before. Maybe we would with the right help. That night, while most of the Sithic slept, Taeho and Sujin finalized their plan. The serpents listened, their eyes alert, their implants flashing with communication patterns. The biggest problem is the control room, Sujin said. It's heavily guarded, and Commander Hisk is always there. We need a distraction, said Taeho. Something big enough to draw guards away from key areas. Sunja moved forward and touched its implant, sending a complex pattern of lights. What is it saying? Taeho asked. He could understand simple patterns. Now, but this was too complex. Sujin, who had more experience with the Sithic's control systems, watched carefully. I think it's suggesting the serpent holding area. There are hundreds more serpents on level 3 kept in stasis until needed. If we could wake them, release them, it would cause chaos, Taeho finished. But how do we get there? Sunja touched its implant again, sending another pattern. The ventilation shafts, Sujin translated. They're large enough for the serpents to move through. The Sithic designed them that way, so the serpents could be sent anywhere on the ship if needed. Taeho smiled. The Sithic built their own weakness into the ship. There's still the matter of getting out of the pit, Sujin reminded him. The door only opens from outside. Sunja slithered to the wall beside the door. It pressed its head against what looked like a solid section of wall. To Taeho's surprise, the wall section moved slightly. A maintenance panel, Sujin said excitedly. For the guards to check the door systems. If we could override it? Taeho moved to help Sunja. Together they pushed the panel open, revealing a complex set of controls inside. Sujin examined them. I can work with this, she said, but it will take time. How much time? An hour, maybe less if I'm lucky. Taeho nodded. Do it. We'll only get one chance at this. While Sujin worked on the door controls, Taeho gathered the serpents. There were 30 of them, all now partially aware of their true nature. He used the light patterns to explain the plan again, making sure they all understood their roles. News of the strange events in the pit had spread throughout the ship. Many Sithic now came to the viewing window to see the human who controlled serpents. Word reached other prisoners too, giving them hope for the first time. In his private quarters, Commander Hisk received reports from his scientists about the changes in the serpent's behavior. The implant control signals are being modified, one scientist explained. The human has found a way to insert new code. Is he restoring their intelligence? Hisk asked, his scales darkening with anger. Partially, yes. But they remain in serpent form. They cannot return to their original state. Hisk paced the room. This is dangerous. The Nagaraj were formidable enemies before we changed them. If they remember, if they turn against us, should we terminate the serpents? The scientist asked. No, they are too valuable as weapons. We will terminate the human instead, immediately. Hisk activated his communicator. Guards, go to the pit. Kill the human prisoner and the translator, then reset all serpent implants to base settings. In the pit, Sujin had finally managed to override the door controls. It's ready, she told Taeho. When I press this, the door will open. Before she could do it, they heard sounds from outside. Footsteps approaching, weapons being readied. They're coming, Taeho said. We need to move now. Sujin pressed the control. The door slid open, revealing 4 Sithic guards with weapons raised. Don't move, humans, one guard ordered. Commander Hisk has ordered your execution. But the guards had not expected to find the door already open, nor had they expected 30 partially awakened serpents waiting just inside, led by a massive purple one with intelligence burning in its eyes. Sunja moved first, faster than Taeho had ever seen it move. It struck the lead guard, wrapping its powerful body around him before he could fire his weapon. The other serpents surged forward, overwhelming the remaining guards in seconds. The hallway was clear. Their rebellion had begun. Now we split up. Taeho said to Sujin, you take half the serpents to the engine room. Find your Zor friends. I'll take Sunja and the others to free the serpents on level 3. Sujin nodded. Be careful. If Hisk realizes what we're doing, he'll lock down the whole ship. Then, we'd better be quick. Taeho turned to Sunja. Ready to free your people? Sunja's implant flashed a pattern that Taeho now recognized as agreement. Together, they moved into the hallway, ready to turn the Sithik's greatest weapons against. Then behind them, the empty pit stood open, a prison no more. Alarms blared throughout the Sithik ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Commander Hisk stood in the control room, his scales dark with rage as reports flooded in. Serpents loose on level 3, guards under attack, engine room compromised. The Zor are revolting, prisoners escaping from holding cells. Hisk slammed his fist on the control panel. Lock down all sections, release nerve gas in the affected areas. Sir, a nervous officer replied. The gas systems are not responding. Someone has overridden the controls. Hisk knew exactly who that someone was. The human prisoner. The one who should have died in the pit. Somehow, he had turned the serpents against their masters and inspired others to join his rebellion. Prepare my personal guard, Hisk ordered, and bring the new weapon online. If we cannot control the ship, we will destroy it. No one takes from the Sithik. Meanwhile, Taeho and Sunja had reached level 3. The ventilation shafts had been just as the serpent had indicated, large enough for them to travel through, undetected. Now they faced a massive door with a complex lock. This is it, Taeho said to Sunja. The main serpent holding area should be through here. Sunja's implant flashed a pattern of lights. It could sense its kind nearby. Hundreds of them kept in a sleep-like state until needed. Taeho studied the lock. It required a Sithik palm print to open. We need to find another way in. Sunja moved forward and pressed its head against a small panel beside the door. Its implant flashed rapidly, connecting with the ship's systems. Taeho watched in amazement as the lights on the door changed from red to green. The massive door began to slide open. You can interface with the ship, Taeho realized. The Sithik never thought you would use that ability against them. Beyond the door was an enormous chamber. Rows upon rows of serpents hung in glowing tubes filled with clear liquid. Each had neural implants attached to their heads. They floated motionless. Eyes closed. There are so many, Taeho whispered, hundreds. Sunja moved to the central control panel. Again, its implant connected with the system. The lights in the chamber changed from white to blue. The liquid in the tubes began to drain. You're waking them, Taeho said. All of them. One by one, the serpents began to move. Eyes opened. Bodies uncoiled. The tubes opened and serpents spilled out onto the floor. They were confused, disoriented. But Sunja approached the nearest one and pressed its head against the other's implant. Lights flashed between them. Sunja was sharing the liberation code. The newly awakened serpent's eyes changed, becoming more aware. It then moved to another serpent and did the same thing. The process spread rapidly, serpent to serpent, chain reaction of awakening. Within minutes, hundreds of partially awakened Nagaraj filled the chamber. They all turned to Taeho and Sunja, waiting. We need to find Sujin, Taeho told them. She should be in the engine room by now. Sunja led the way, with Taeho riding on its back. The army of serpents followed. Any Sithik guards they encountered fled in terror at the sight of so many serpents moving with purpose and coordination. In the engine room, Sujin had found her Zor allies. They were small blue-furred beings with 4 arms and large eyes. They worked quickly at the ship's controls. We've disabled their weapon systems, one Zor told Sujin, and locked out the nerve gas. But we cannot stop the new device they're preparing. What new device? Sujin asked. A planet killer, the Zor said gravely. Designed to destroy Earth in a single strike. It's why they captured this human in the first place, and they needed to understand Earth's defenses. Sujin's blood ran cold. Can we disable it? Not from here. The controls are in the command center. With Commander Hisk. The doors to the engine room suddenly burst open. Sujin raised her stolen weapon but lowered it when she saw Taeho riding on Sunja's back, with an army of serpents behind him. "You made it," she said with relief. "The Nagaraj are free," Taeho told her, "at least as free as they can be in these forms." "We have a bigger problem," Sujin explained about the planet killer weapon. "They're preparing to use it against Earth." Taeho's face hardened. "Then we need to take the command center." "It's heavily guarded," the Zor warned. "Hisk will be waiting." "He won't be expecting all of us," Taeho said, looking at the serpents and Zor around them. "And we have one more advantage." He explained his plan quickly. The serpents would use the ventilation system to enter the command center from multiple points. The Zor would override the door controls, and Sujin would help free the remaining prisoners to create more chaos. "What will you do?" Sujin asked Taeho. "Sunja and I will confront Hisk directly. The planet killer is the priority. We have to stop it." They moved out quickly, each to their assigned tasks. The rebellion was spreading throughout the ship. Species that had been conquered and enslaved by the Scythic for generations were rising up, inspired by the human who had turned the serpents against their masters. In the command center, Hisk received the worst news yet. "Sir, all serpent-holding areas report the same. The subjects are awake and free from control. The liberation code is spreading from implant to implant." "And the planet killer?" Hisk demanded. "Ready to fire in 10 minutes, sir." Hisk nodded with satisfaction. "Then it doesn't matter what these rebels do. Once Earth is destroyed, the human resistance will crumble." A loud bang shook the command center doors, then another. Something was trying to break in. "Stand ready," Hisk ordered his guards. "Kill anything that comes through that door." But the attack didn't come through the door, it came from above as ventilation covers throughout the command center burst open. Serpents poured in from every opening, dropping onto startled Scythic guards. In the confusion, the main doors slid open. Taeho entered, riding on Sunja's back like a warrior of old. Behind him came more serpents, Zor rebels, and freed prisoners, of a dozen different species. Hisk stood his ground as chaos erupted around him. His personal guards formed a protective circle, firing weapons at the invaders. "You're too late, human," Hisk called to Taeho. "The planet killer will fire in minutes. Earth will be dust." Taeho slid from Sunja's back and approached the center of the room, where a massive control panel glowed with red lights. The countdown was clearly visible. 8 minutes remaining. "Stop the countdown, Hisk," Taeho demanded. "This ends now." "You have accomplished nothing," Hisk hissed. "You may have turned some of our weapons against us, but the Scythic Empire spans 100 worlds. This ship is just one of thousands." "But it's your ship, Commander," Taeho said. "Your failure. How will your leaders react when they learn you let one human prisoner destroy everything?" Hisk's scales darkened with rage. "They will never know, because you will die here." The Scythic commander drew a curved blade and lunged at Taeho, but Sunja was faster. The massive serpent knocked Hisk sideways with its powerful body. The battle raged throughout the command center. Serpents fought alongside Zor and other freed slaves against the Scythic guards. Sujin led a group to the secondary controls, trying to override the planet killer countdown. "I can't stop it," she called to Taeho. "The system is locked." Taeho fought his way to the main control panel. 6 minutes remained. He studied the controls frantically, looking for some way to abort the launch. Hisk recovered from Sunja's attack and came at Taeho again. "You cannot stop it, human. Only my command code can abort, and I will never give it." Taeho backed away as Hisk swung his blade. "Sunja!" he called. The serpent moved to Taeho's side. Its implant flashed a complex pattern of lights. "What is this?" Hisk demanded, suddenly wary. "The Nagaraj remember who they were," Taeho said. "And they remember what you did to them." Sunja's implant continued to flash, more rapidly now. Incredibly, the control panel in front of them began to respond, lights changing from red to yellow. "Impossible," Hisk shouted. "The Nagaraj built much of your technology before you conquered them," Taeho said, understanding now. "Their knowledge is still there, buried in their minds, and your ship still recognized their command codes." The countdown froze at 3 minutes, 42 seconds. Hisk roared with fury and charged at Sunja, blade raised high. I will destroy you all. But he never reached the serpent. A dozen other serpents descended on him from all sides, their massive bodies wrapping around him, squeezing. Hisk's blade clattered to the floor. His yellow eyes bulged as he gasped for air. Surrender, Commander, Teho said. Order your forces to stand down. Hisk struggled against his serpent captors. Never, he gasped. The Sithik do not surrender. Then the Sithik will fall, Teho replied. One ship at a time if necessary. With Sunja's help, Teho managed to fully cancel the Planet Killer launch. Sujin and the Zor gained control of the ship's communications, broadcasting a message to all Sithik ships in the sector. This is Lieutenant Sujin Park. The Sithik warship Vengeance is now under control of the Allied resistance. Commander Hisk has been captured. All serpent weapons have been freed and have joined us. Stand down and surrender or face the same fate. To their surprise, responses came quickly. On ship after ship, similar rebellions were breaking out. The news of serpents turning on their masters had spread like wildfire. Species long oppressed by the Sithik saw their chance and took it. In the days that followed, Tai Ho and Sujin managed to contact Earth.